The Atlanta Braves not only take their series against the Cleveland Guardians in convincing fashion, they may have cleared the deck for Didier Fuentes to come back to the majors. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on into Braves Today, your daily source for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball, and you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. We're probably part of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com to get started. I want to look at the Miami Marlins and talk about where they are ahead of tonight's series, whether or not they'll get Kyle Stowers back, the pitching matchups, and all of that. I want to talk about some of the moves that we have coming, right? Whether it's Spencer Strider, Sean Murphy doing their rehab appearances, pitching moves to the major league level, and all of that. But before we do that, Braves take the series from the Cleveland Guardians last night, and I said it in the open, convincing fashion. They went 11-5 on Friday. They get shut out on Saturday 6-0. So they rebound with a 13-1 victory that was just dominant. And we talked about the Braves pitching staff being one of the best in baseball entering the year. Not entering the year, entering the series, right? About Atlanta's ERA was amongst the best in baseball, if not the best. And a lot of different metrics, they were number one. And after this series, they still are, right? Atlanta has an ERA as a team of 2.41 across their 16 games. And when you break it down to like just the starters versus just the relievers, the starters have the second best ERA at 2.70, right behind the Yankees at 2.67. And then the relievers the bullpen does have the best ERA in baseball at 1.95. But you could argue that this series was not won by the pitching staff. When you look at what Atlanta does in this series, it's an ERA of 4. Braves pitchers give up 12 earned runs in 27 innings, 3 homers. They strike out 17 to only 14. They strike out only 17 to 14 walks. From a grading this start perspective, the Brave starters weren't actually that amazing other than Chris Sale in this series. Bryce Elder gets in some trouble on Friday night. They pull him early. It's the bad version of Bryce Elder, the one that's walking guys and fighting through traffic every inning. He goes 4 2/3, 2 runs on 4 hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. Does give up a homer there. But the difference in this version of Bryce Elder versus the previous version of Bryce Elder is this wasn't a 6-7 run appearance over 5 or 6. Part of it is Walt Weiss pulled him out early. Walt Weiss yanked him in the 5th inning and went ahead and got the out, ended the 5th inning. And that's just not something we had necessarily seen before. Like Aaron Bummer coming in the 5th for Bryce Elder. Typically, when that happened in recent seasons, it was because Elder had already allowed 7 runs. So a little bit of more consistency on Elder to get out of some of the situations he put himself in, right? 2-out walk in the first inning to Jose Ramirez. He gets the strikeout. 2-out single to Stephen Kwan in the 3rd. He gets the shallow fly ball to end it. He did some of the work he had to do to get out of some of these situations. But also, Walt Weiss having the quick hook and saying, nope, we're gonna nip this right now before it gets worse. Shout out to Walt Weiss for the decision there. Martín Pérez on Saturday. Second start of the year. Isn't necessarily, only gives up 1 run across 5 innings on 2 hits, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. And we're going to get to that DFA decision in a minute, okay? Like, that's coming. That's coming. But Atlanta's offense just can't do anything, right? It wasn't Martín Pérez's fault they lost, right? The start was fine. The start wasn't, from a run scored perspective, the start was really good. from a quality of Perez's pitching, it was fine. Chris Sale kind of gave you one of those, I'm not going to say vintage Chris Sale performances, because if you watch Sunday Night Baseball on Peacock, he was dealing with traffic in every single inning. It was not just, the box score maybe belies exactly how easy or exactly how tough that outing was for him. Sale finished with 1 run in 6 innings on 8 hits, 1 walk versus 6 strikeouts. But when you watched the game, he stranded Guardians on 2nd and 3rd in the first inning. He got back-to-back strikeouts after letting them be 2 in score position with 1 out. A runner on 2nd in the 2nd inning. Runners on 1st in the 3rd and the 4th. And a runner on 2nd in the 5th inning. He stranded all of those guys. The only person that comes in, Rhys Hoskins, gets a solo shot to lead off the 6th. And honestly, it was a really good piece of hitting from Rhys Hoskins. It's a backdoor changeup, down and away. It's, and Rhys Hoskins goes and gets it and puts it in the seats. Like, really good piece of hitting from Rhys Hoskins. Sale's ERA is now down to 3.27. That Angels start kind of messed him up a little bit. But the story of this whole series is not the pitching. Again, their ERA for the series was a 4. The story is the offense. And we really saw 2 different versions of the Braves offense in this series. Game 1, they put up 11 runs on 15 hits, 3 homers. They have 2 doubles, 3 walks to 5 strikeouts. Game 3, they put up 13 runs on 19 hits, 5 doubles and a homer, 2 walks to 5 strikeouts. But in the middle there, they get shut out 6-0 by Parker Messick. They get 5 hits, a double and a triple, and can't bring either of those guys in. 9 strikeouts, 3 walks. So bit of a frustrating middle game of the series there. And like some of these, the triple, Ronald Acuna hits a triple in the bottom of the 5th on Saturday with, it was with 2 outs, right? Drake Baldwin strikes out looking. That's not an outcome I feel like happens a lot, is that Drake Baldwin strikes out looking, right? They just really struggled to figure out Parker Messick. I wrote about this over the weekend on Today's 3 Things at bravestoday.com. He did a fantastic job of sequencing and holding something back each time through the order so that he could change his pitch mix the second time and then change his pitch mix the third time. And anecdotally, I need to dive more into this. Anecdotally, it feels like the pitchers Atlanta has struggled with this year are the guys that have 5 or 6 pitches, right? Thinking about like a Michael Wacha, stuff like that. It's the one guy who's just shut them down with a tiny pitch mix is Jose Soriano. And he's shut everybody down this year. I think he's allowed maybe 1 earned run. I haven't fact-checked that yet. Like, he's made 4 starts. He's covered like 27 innings, and he has like 1 run allowed. I think he leads baseball in strikeouts with like 31 or something. It's nuts. But other than him, the guys they've struggled with have been the guys who are throwing 5 or 6 pitches. So even when you include that Game 2 shutout, on the weekend, Atlanta hit .355 with a .958 OPS. They only grounded into 2 double plays. And at the same time, they put up 39 hits, including 13 for extra bases, 8 walks to 19 strikeouts, and they stole a bag. They stole 1 base all weekend. Again, haven't really seen the Antoine Richardson integration into the offense just yet, but the offense powers the series win this weekend. Atlanta continues to be the only team that has not yet lost a series on the year. The Guardians and Braves were tied as far as the only teams who had not lost one. Guardians obviously dropped this one. The Braves did have, they did tie in their series against Arizona 2-2, but the Braves have not lost a series this year. In just a minute, let's talk about the possible way if the Braves could integrate Didier Fuentes into the rotation this week. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Grand Slam Getaways. If you've dreamt of the ultimate baseball road trip, this one's for you. Grand Slam Getaways offers bucket list baseball bus trips designed for fans who love the game and want to travel in style. All these trips depart from Atlanta. You get field level tickets, including at least 2 Braves road games on each trip, 3-star hotels with daily breakfast, a full slate of ballparks, and other scenic activities. I think it's the trip to the Midwest is going to the Louisville Slugger Museum. Trip to the Northeast is stopping by the Bull Durham filming locations. There's going to be appearances of our former MLB players, giveaways, and all that kind of stuff. So, whether you're retired, you're a baseball nut, or just looking for a parent-child summer adventure, this is a great way to build memories with your kids. And if you want it all time to match up with Braves road games, you can reserve your spot now with a small deposit. Go to grandslam-getaways.com to make this summer a grand slam. Again, grandslam-getaways.com to let the baseball adventure begin. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. We saw some roster moves made in this series, and it kind of clears the way if the Braves want to have Didier Fuentes come back to the majors. I talked about this a little bit, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, about how he was coming up on the 15 days after having been optioned, right? He was sent down on March 30th, so April 14th is when he's eligible to come back up. And we saw the Braves have to DFA somebody over the weekend to get a fresh pitcher. And they chose Martín Pérez instead of José Suarez. And a lot of people ask questions about why. Why was Martín Pérez, when he pitched better than Suarez, he made 2 good starts for you, why was Martín Pérez the one that was DFA'd and not José Suarez, who has, for the most part, been disappointing? The whole reason you had to get a pitcher for Sunday is because José Suarez could not finish out the game on Saturday, and they had to throw 2 other relievers behind him, including Osvaldo Bido, which meant that Bido wasn't able to finish the game on Saturday, and they had to go get a new fresh arm. And just to be clear, we don't have an official explanation from the Braves. They don't communicate with us explanations on these things. We got the notice from Braves comms yesterday that the transaction was happening. I think it was broken in the clubhouse by friend of the show, Chad Bishop. He was in there and he saw Dylan Dodd in the room and Dylan Dodd's locker and all of that. And Walt Weiss said, yeah, we're going to DFA Martín Pérez. But my assumption here as to why this happened, there's a couple possible reasons. I think the first one is that despite the better performance on the field from Martín Pérez that we've seen, because let's be clear, I mean, his stats have been better than José Suarez's stats. Martín Pérez, in his 3 appearances for Atlanta, has allowed 5 runs on 9 hits across 14 1/3 innings, 4 walks to 6 strikeouts, and he gave up 1 home run. By contrast, you look at what José Suarez has done, and it is frustrating, right? He's given up 7 runs on 11 hits in 6 1/3 innings, 4 walks to 10 strikeouts. But MLB teams don't necessarily look at the results when they're making these decisions. They're looking at process and projections and everything else. And I think it's possible, it's likely, actually, that the Braves believe either A, Martín Pérez is more likely to make it through waivers than José Suarez is. And I would assume, if that's the justification here, that it's some combination of lesser stuff and lesser confidence in his ability to do this over a season. Martín Pérez's fastball this year is averaging 90.2 miles an hour. His sinker, that's his fourth seamer. His sinker is averaging 90 miles an hour. And then when you look at Jose Suarez, he's averaging 93.8 on the fastball. His slider projects out on as far as the grades that these pitches get. The changeup is really good for Suarez. The slider has potential. His locations are not bad. And when you look at Martín Pérez, Fangraphs does have the sinker as a 101. Everything else is well below average. The cutter's a 90 stuff plus. The four-seamer's a 73 stuff plus. The curveball's an 83 stuff plus. The changeup's an 84 stuff plus. So, in a small sample size, Martín Pérez has been able to overproduce versus expectations. Again, his actual ERA is a 3.14. A lot of his estimators have him as much higher. And at the same time, Jose Suarez has a 9.95 ERA. His field and independent pitching is 188. He has a significant difference in his actual ERA and a lot of his estimators. Even his expected ERA is barely a 4. So I think part of it is, one, they believe that MLB teams are going to look at what's going into the performance versus taking the small sample size of the actual results as gospel. I'm speculating that's reason one. Reason two, we talked about this a little bit, I think it was last week. Martín Pérez has said a lot of really good things about the organization. And when he didn't make the opening day roster, he did not opt out and he chose to go to Gwinnett to stay with the organization. It's entirely possible the other reason they chose Martín Pérez over Jose Suarez is that if he clears waivers, which isn't a guarantee, a team may still take him. The Astros just lost, I think they sent 3 pitchers home from their most recent road trip with injuries. The Blue Jays have lost multiple guys. Teams may still grab Martín Pérez. But if he clears waivers, it is entirely possible the Braves believe he would choose to stay with the organization, and he could get called back up for a start in 2 weeks. It could be like Jesse Chavez. You DFA him, nobody claims him, he joins Gwinnett, and then you bring him back, a week later or however long it is. Because if you DFA him, instead of optioning him down, because he doesn't have any options, if you DFA him, there's no time period you have to wait before you can call him back up. In essence, it's like a free roster move. You just run the risk of somebody claiming him off of waivers every time. It may not just be a quality of the innings they've pitched decision, right? There's other things that go into this. But what this does do, I teased it a little bit earlier, what this does do, if the Braves want, is it clears the path for Didier Fuentes to come back up before that second option triggers. So the starters for this upcoming series, as announced by the Braves: Grant Holmes on Monday, Reynaldo Lopez on Tuesday. This order is flipped because Monday is the final game of Reynaldo Lopez's suspension from the Angels situation. So Grant Holmes moves up to regular rest on Monday. Reynaldo Lopez has an extra day of rest on Tuesday. And then Bryce Elder pitches on Jackie Robinson Day on Wednesday. The Braves could make a roster move and call Bryce Elder up. I'm sorry. The Braves could make a roster move and call Didier Fuentes up to start on Wednesday if they want, and push Bryce Elder back to Philly. Didier Fuentes is on the schedule for Gwinnett to pitch on Tuesday. So he would be lined up to come up and start on Wednesday. And I don't know the exact timing of how this works. He was sent down on March 30th. So I think he can be called up on Tuesday if they wanted to have him do the middle game of the series. But I legitimately do not know. I'm just not 100% sure exactly what the rule is as far as can it be on the 15th day or does it have to be on day 16? I don't know when you have to stay down 15 days. I think it has to be day 16, which means he can come back up on Wednesday. But the Braves could choose to either call him up and take him on the road trip to Philly, or have him start on Wednesday and push Bryce Elder back to Friday. I'd rather keep Bryce Elder on regular rest. I don't want Bryce Elder getting extra rest. I feel like he does better. This is that Joe Simpson thing he told me in the press box a few years ago. I feel like Bryce Elder does better when he's slightly fatigued. Yeah, it's a sinker baller. But they can get Didier Fuentes up before the 20 days expires. The other option here, and it's important we point this out because they're off on Thursday, is the Braves could just keep a four-man rotation right now and keep an extra guy in the pen. So right now, José Suarez throwing 31 pitches on Friday. He should be back and available to pitch tonight. And we're getting to that Marlins series in a minute. Osvaldo Bido threw 50 on Saturday. He's probably not back until, I would imagine, probably Wednesday. Dylan Dodd, who was the call-up, he pitched the final 3 innings last night, got the save on 33 pitches. He's probably down until Wednesday. They could just keep the extra man in the pen and go with a 4-man rotation. Because you have that off day, you just don't have to throw a 5th starter. And so on Friday, Chris Sale on regular rest would get the start against Philly, in Philly. Saturday on Fox, there's a lot of national broadcasts in here. Saturday on Fox would be Grant Holmes. Sunday on, I think that's on Peacock again, 2 straight games on Sunday Night Baseball. Although Brandon Gaudin calls that one. Sunday would be Ronaldo Lopez. And then you don't actually need a 5th starter until Tuesday in Washington. Next week on Tuesday. Bryce Elder would go on Monday, and then you'd have to find another 5th starter for Tuesday the 21st. It could be Martín Pérez. If he's still with the organization, you could call him back up. You could call Fuentes up at that point. I have been told that AA has said privately to people, like this is, I guess from a source here, that Didier Fuentes would be the one that they would bring up, not J.R. Ritchie. Ritchie's not on the 40-man roster. Fuentes would be the one, because right now, he's using his bullets in AAA. Why not use the bullets up here? Ritchie is still legitimately doing development stuff. He's pitching well, but he's doing development stuff. Fuentes is just using the bullets there. Use the bullets here instead. And again, I would want them to bring him up for either the Wednesday start against Miami, or I'd rather do it Wednesday against Miami than Friday in Philly. But bringing Didier Fuentes up before the option gets used. Because again, you have to be down for 20 days for the option to actually count. We'll see what they do. But I legitimately, listen, you can totally... The question's going to be would you rather have Didier Fuentes pitching to Sean Murphy this week? Because Sean Murphy goes on a rehab outing this week. He was supposed to start over the weekend. He had a family emergency. So he's starting, I think, today. Would you rather have Didier Fuentes, or tomorrow, would you rather have Fuentes pitching to Sean Murphy on Tuesday? Or would you rather have Didier Fuentes in the majors? I don't know. Spencer Strider, same thing here. He's starting a rehab appearance. He is going to make, I believe, the belief is 3 starts in the minors before he rejoins the team. So you're looking at the end of April, beginning of May, before you would get Strider back. So whatever this decision is right here, you only have to make it a couple times. You could punt this right here, and then you really need this guy for 2 or 3 starts total. And then if Fuentes is doing well and you want to preserve the option, you could put Fuentes into the pen when Strider comes back. That would mean probably José Suarez is the one that's gone. I don't think many of us would disagree with that. Lots of ways this could work out. Curious to see what the Braves do. In just a minute, though, let's talk about Miami, because I do think this is a team that is rating really well as far as in the standings. They're in second place. And as far as the win-loss record, but I'm still not completely sold on who they are as an offense and a pitching staff. We'll break that down next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by an old friend, Encase Cards, a custom trading card manufacturer, custom sports cards. How this works. You upload your source photos to the website, and then you get to customize a sports card from that photo. You can choose backgrounds, holographic options, overlay the text. They have an online creator where you do all of that work right there on the website. If you need help, they've got white glove assistants who can sit down and help you with anything you're struggling with. At the end, once you like the card design, you submit it for printing. They print it on high quality cardstock. They slab it in a plastic case, put a frame around it that doubles as a stand, and ship it to you. It works great for all kind of stuff. It can be a gift for a kid. Use sports photos is obviously the number one application you think of here, but tons of different reasons why you might like this. So, Encase Cards, ncasecards.com. Promo code BRAVES today gets you 20% off your order. Again, that's Encase Cards, ncasecards.com. Promo code BRAVES today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Miami Marlins. Let's talk about who they are as a team. Let's talk about why they are doing well in the standings, but also why I don't necessarily know how legitimate this is. They're getting great performances from Sandy Alcantara. Unless they change the rotation, you won't see him this series. The probable pitchers on their side. You do get the baby goat, Eury Perez, on Monday. And I think this might be it's just like his third start in Atlanta. He had one in 23 where he got just absolutely obliterated. Didn't make it out of the first inning. This was right after he'd come up and he was like the next big thing. And then he missed 24 for Tommy John. And then last August, he came to Atlanta and he pitched 5 1/3 innings, 5 runs on 7 hits. He got taken deep 3 times. So probably a little bit of like he wants to get right against Atlanta, but he'll match up with Grant Holmes. Prospect Max Meyer, not a prospect anymore, I'm sorry. Max Meyer, former top prospect of the Marlins. He goes on Tuesday opposite Ronaldo Lopez. He was a first rounder in 2020, the number 3 overall pick. He has a 3.68 ERA right now through his first 3 turns through. Just about 1 strikeout an inning, but also 8 walks and 14 2/3. And then Wednesday is Chris Paddack versus Bryce Elder. Paddack is 0-2 with a 6.14 ERA against Elder, who has, a 1.02. It's come all the way up to 1 after those struggles last time. But this team is powered by their offense. The Miami Marlins, this is a team that they don't hit a ton of home runs, right? They are 27th in home runs with 11 right now. But they do a lot of the little things well. They're 3rd in baseball in stolen bases at 19. They've got some guys who are really good at contact, right? Liam Hicks, catcher and first baseman. He combines with Augustin Ramirez behind the plate because Ramirez is a terrible defender. Liam Hicks, 100th percentile in whiff rate, 99th percentile in strikeout rate. He's not swinging and missing a lot. Otto Lopez is in the high 80s percentiles on both. Xavier Edwards is in the low 90 percentiles on both. For the most part, minus a couple guys like Javier Sanoa, they don't really chase a ton. Otto Lopez does chase a little bit, but for the most part, a lot of these guys are above average at not chasing. A couple of these guys can really get into some power. Owen Casey, max exit velo so far this season, 93rd percentile. Augustin Ramirez, 96. Griffin Conine, 97. It's a lot of really young, intriguing hitters who can surprise. The thing I will say is I don't know if they get back Kyle Stowers or not. He's currently on a rehab assignment down in AAA. He had a hamstring strain in March. And when we first went on rehab, I really assumed they were going to try to rush him back to get him back for this series. But it's looking more like because their outfield's playing okay, they're not necessarily going to do it, right? So Jacob Marcy is typically their center fielder. He usually leads off. They've got Owen Casey in right, Javier Sanoa in left. Sanoa can also play some third base. There's some really interesting adjustments that they make to their lineup sometimes. Their bench has both Heriberto Hernandez and Austin Slater. So they have 5 outfielders they can legitimately use. I think the last 6 games, when I went and looked, those guys combined for 5 appearances. But when they had Slater in the game, he led off. He played right field and he was the leadoff hitter, right? Davison De Los Santos is they just called him up. He's he's a first base, third base DH type, and he can generate a ton of power. They rotate DH through a lot of guys. Last couple days, De Los Santos got one, Hicks got one, Augustin Ramirez got one, Marcy got one, Ramirez got another, I believe, and then Leo Jimenez, an infielder they got via trade from Toronto in March, got one. They really rotate DH through a lot of guys. But it's a lineup that it's got some contact guys. It's got some massive power guys. They do have some whiff there, especially Casey. But it's not as easy of a team to face as you might think it is. Now, at the same time, I will say that they're doing that thing they kind of did back in, I think it was 23, where they're doing really well in one-run games. It's a small sample size, clearly. I mean, we're only 16 games into the season. They've had 4 one-run games. They've won all 4 of them. The only extra innings game they played, they lost by 3. But they've just had a lot of really close games that they have won. They opened the season with 3 consecutive one-run games, all wins. 2-1, 4-3, and a 4-3 walk-off. So, it's a little bit of overperformance in that regard. But it's not a team that you can look past. They're going to test the catchers. They're going to be stealing bags and being active. And you don't have any lefties on the mound in this series. It's 3 righties, Holmes, Lopez, and Elder. So being cognizant of the running game, making sure that you're working with, I assume, Drake Baldwin for all 3 games, making sure you're working with Baldwin is going to be really important. Eury Perez is going to get his from a strikeout perspective. I do think he is gettable at the same time. Again, he has an ERA of 5. He struggled a little bit at times this year. Max Myers looked solid, kind of unspectacular, but solid. Chris Paddack feels like he's a placeholder in the 4th spot in the order until they can get somebody ready and somebody up. I just don't necessarily see him lasting that long, but at the same time, they don't have a ton of Braxton Garrett in AAA would be a guy, maybe a Dax Fulton. They just don't have any better options. That's what happens with some of these. This is the Marlins rotation is what people thought the Braves rotation would actually be to start the year. That you would have some quality up top and then just some terrible options at the bottom. The Marlins actual rotation is what the doom and gloomers thought the Braves rotation would be this year. So there you go. But I like the Braves in this series. I like the matchups. I like it being at home. I do think you're going to see Miami's offense get theirs. It's just not going to be a bunch of 4-0, 5-0, 6-0 wins. But at the same time, this should be a series Atlanta should win, and I feel confident that they will. We'll be back this afternoon. Those of you who are subscribed to the YouTube, you'll get the scouting report this afternoon once the lineups are out. It's also a written article over at bravetoday.com. A lot of other fun stuff over at bravetoday.com. We looked at the ABS challenges. They were terrible with that last night. We're out of challenges by the 3rd inning. We looked at extending Mauricio Dubon. We talked about what that deal would look like from a financial perspective and the reasons for and against Atlanta doing it and all of that. So bravetoday.com, go subscribe over there, as well as hit the notification bell if you're here on YouTube. If you're on audio, share it with a friend. That'd be great. And we'll see you next time on Braves Today.